And welcome back. Thanks very much for staying on with us here on WION World is One. My name is Molly Gambhir. A quick look first at the top stories that we are tracking at this hour. In the first high-level contact between Washington and Moscow since Russia invaded Ukraine, the US warns about the consequences of any possible Russian decision to use chemical or biological weapons in Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin says West's sanctions against Russia failed and asserts that he will not allow Ukraine to become a springboard to threaten Russia. A cameraman and a producer working for Fox News killed in fighting near Kiev. 2 other Ukrainian journalists as well as a US documentary filmmaker have also been killed. Seoul residents get tested for COVID-19 as South Korea reports more than 400,000 fresh COVID-19 cases. India starts administering COVID-19 vaccine shots to children aged 12 to 14 as schools reopen. Also drops a restriction on booster shots for those older than 60 only if they had a comorbidity function. Reporting from the front lines is one of the most challenging assignments a journalist can undertake. Your safety is not guaranteed, neither are basic supplies. When you are out there, you are mostly on your own. The killing of journalists in Ukraine is a harsh reminder of this grim reality. A French-Irish cameraman and a Ukrainian journalist working for Fox News have lost their lives. Their vehicle was struck by incoming fire in the town of Horenka. 55-year-old Zarkes Zioski was reporting with another Fox News journalist, Benjamin Hall, when they came under attack near the capital, Kiev. Hall is currently injured and remains hospitalized. Pierre Zozowski was based in London. He had dual French and Irish citizenship and had been working in Ukraine since February. Pierre was a war zone photographer, having covered nearly every international story from Iraq to Afghanistan to Syria. Fox News did not initially mention Kushnova's death, but after heavy backlash, mentioned her death in a second statement. The Ukrainian journalist had been working as a consultant for the channel. She was helping the network's crews navigate Kiev while speaking to sources. This comes after American filmmaker and journalist Brent Renaud was shot dead on Sunday. This incident took place in the town of Irpin in Ukraine's Kiev region. According to the Ukrainian parliament's human rights chief, 3 other journalists have also been killed in the fighting. The deaths come as journalists working in Ukraine increasingly find themselves in the line of fire. Going straight across now to our correspondent, Anas Malik, who is in Kiev and has been getting us up to speed with the latest coming in from there. Anas, almost every time we have had a conversation on air, one can hear the sound of shelling. You are reporting at a time when getting the story out to the world is a matter of life and death. If you can summarize for us, tell us more about what it has been like covering the developments on the ground.
Well, Molly, it's been really challenging for two reasons. The first casualty of any war is the truth, and as journalists, we have a responsibility to deliver the truth out in a reason that is very different, given that there is a language barrier that stands in between, and that is one of the biggest challenges with regards to and getting the truth out. Of course, in a war zone, you never know when or where can a shell land next, and that is probably the tragedy of the wars, because journalists go there voluntarily to get the actual picture for the masses, so that the world knows and the world is well aware. I was in Irpin when it started to shell. I was in Brovary about 4 days back when the evacuations were ongoing, and almost all the time we've had nearly a very close call or near misses. I'm glad we've had that, but as journalists we have that responsibility to protect ourselves, as well as to deliver the story out, to get the story and not be the story. And that's perhaps one of the biggest challenges in any war zone, be here in Ukraine, or previously I was in Afghanistan as well. We had been reporting there for about almost 4 months, and that is, as I said, one of the biggest challenges, because people expect, as I talk to you, there is shelling. I'm not sure if you can hear that. It's going, and it's continuously at a stretch. I can count. I can lose a count of how many shells that have just been fired. So that's something that we have to protect ourselves from, and be objective. At the same time, ensure that the entire picture is out. Molly.
Right, as we delve deeper into what your experience has been like and the challenges that you have faced on the ground, stay on with us, Anas. Let's also get our viewers the latest on the Russian journalist who protested on live television against the Russian invasion of Ukraine and has now been released with a fine. This comes after an international outcry over her detention. Maria was an editor at Channel 1 television. She was on the set holding a poster that read "No War," as you can see. Now she says she fears for her life.
To be honest, I'm concerned for my safety. I'm quite concerned. I believe in what I did, but now I understand the scale of the problems that I'll have to deal with, and of course, I'm extremely concerned for my own safety. The protest had two goals: show the whole world that Russians are against the war, and to tell Russian people directly to not be such zombies, to not listen to this propaganda, and to learn how to analyze information, to learn how to find other sources of information, not just the Russian state television.
A Moscow judge has ordered her to pay a fine of 30,000 ruble, that is $280. Lawyers say that the journalist faced risk of criminal charges with a penalty of up to 15 years in jail. The Kremlin has said that the woman's actions amounted to hooliganism. Earlier, a video released by OVD Info showed the journalist explaining why she entered the studio holding that sign. She called Russia an aggressor and that she was ashamed of allowing lies to be spoken on the national television. This incident was an unusual breach of security. Russian state broadcaster Channel 1's flagship show called Time has been running since the Soviet era. It is watched by millions across the country, particularly the older population. And this is day 21 of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The capital city, Kiev, is under a 35-hour-long curfew after facing multiple Russian airstrikes through the night. This is what Kiev looks like right now. The streets are empty. There's barely any individuals seen on the ground. Few shops have abandoned their items outside. A life-size teddy bear and other decorative installations are still up outside the Kiev shops as Russian troops surround the capital from all sides. Kiev's mayor has warned the residents underground of a difficult and dangerous moment.
Kiev awoke to the sound of air raid sirens on Tuesday as two powerful explosions rocked the Ukrainian capital before dawn, with the mayor announcing a 35-hour curfew to start Tuesday evening. That as the prime ministers of the Czech Republic, Poland and Slovenia made their way to the city by train to show support for the country on behalf of the EU, the first foreign leaders to visit Kiev since Russia invaded last month. Firefighters tried to douse the flames and rescue workers helped evacuate residents trapped in a building that had been struck. Emergency services said at least 2 people died after an apartment building was hit. It was not immediately clear if it was the same block. This man says he was awoken by the sound of a blast.
My belongings were ready to go. I planned how I'd go to bed. I placed a big armchair opposite my head and put some stuff in it and a couple of barbell weights on top. So, in case there was any debris, I would have an armchair with some metal objects on it behind my head. Perhaps that's what saved me, because all the windows were blown out and the debris flew right into my apartment, but I was left practically unharmed, with just a few scratches.
In another part of the city, Reuters witnesses saw residents clearing debris from their homes after shelling blew out windows, ruined balconies and left wreckage strewn across the ground. Kiev has been spared the worst of the fighting so far, but the Russian military is slowly closing in on the city and shelling has intensified. Ukraine hopes to open 9 corridors on Tuesday to evacuate civilians and deliver humanitarian aid to those trapped by Russian forces. This includes to the besieged city of Mariupol, which has been under constant bombardment, leaving hundreds of thousands of residents sheltering without water or power for almost a week. This drone footage, said to be from Mariupol, was released on Monday by Azov, a former right-wing paramilitary which is now part of Ukraine's National Guard. The configuration of the buildings matches satellite photography. Local authorities say anywhere between 2,300 and 20,000 civilians have been killed. Reuters cannot verify those figures. Russia denies it is targeting civilians in what it calls a special operation to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. Ukraine and its Western allies call that a baseless pretext for a war of choice. Further talks between Ukrainian and Russian negotiators are expected on Tuesday, after discussions on Monday via video ended with no new progress announced.
And going back across to our correspondent, Anas Malik, who is with us from Kiev. Anas, tell us more about what things are looking like on the ground. We were looking at visuals coming in earlier of how citizens were lining up outside the grocery stores before that curfew was put in place. There are growing concerns over supplies running out as well.
Well, Molly, the situation on the ground remains grim and tense. We've seen the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense putting out a statement as per their intelligence estimates that Russia is sending reinforcements, especially through the sea as well, and that it is now deploying Pacific Fleet as a reinforcement for its fleet that is there on the sea in the Black Sea. Now, coming back to the situation here in the city of Kiev, well, it's been almost 20 hours since the city has been under curfew. The curfew is to last for another 13 plus hours and it will get off tomorrow morning at 7. I'll just get aside. It's not that it was not a ghost town previously, but the city actually is empty, and you can probably see as well that this is a busy road. And the other side is a prominent square. It's the center of the city that's just empty. Only people with special accreditation passes have been allowed to go out, venture out, and that's it. Journalists were asked to not step out, despite the fact that they had accreditation from the armed forces of Ukraine. They were asked not to step out. So this site tells the story itself. Now, why was the curfew imposed at the first place? There are a lot of speculations, but given that the Ukrainian side has not come out in the open and clarified as to why the curfew was imposed, that is, it's leading to a lot of anxiety. Some say that it is because that Russia wanted to do more and more attacks. Some say it was to against the operation against saboteurs or Russian facilitators. Some say it was because of security concerns, out of security concerns, given that the three prime ministers were in town. So lots of speculations are there over there, and as I said, in the absence of clarity from the government, there is some anxiety because of it. Molly?
Right, and we will be coming back to you for further updates. Leaving it there for the moment, Anas Malik getting us the latest from Kiev. Thanks very much. Let's now talk about what things are looking like in other parts of Ukraine. After multiple failed attempts, around 20,000 people managed to leave Ukraine's port city of Mariupol on Tuesday. They arrived safely in the city of Zaporizhia. This is the first time a humanitarian corridor from Mariupol was not bombed by the Russian forces. Despite the safe passage, it was slow progress though, since drivers had to navigate damaged roads, mines, and a series of checkpoints.
Some Ukrainian troops who have battled Russian forces have ended up at Mykolaiev's Central A&E hospital and are now receiving emergency care for their wounds. These soldiers were able to push back the Russians slightly from the regional capital, which they had been trying to seize. A Ukrainian soldier named Dima described his experience.
We started to attack the enemy and came under fire. Our tank, or turret to be exact, stopped working. The others left without giving us warning. And then the Russian tanks came. We barely managed to get away.
Another Ukrainian fighter, Artyom, spoke of the serious injury he suffered in battle.
We did not manage to leave because we were hit with a shell exactly into my vehicle. My guys could jump out. They managed to get away, but I couldn't because half my leg was torn away. Then I got out, rolled over to my guys. We crawled to the road where our military picked us up, loaded us into a pickup, and brought me to the hospital.
Once stable, the Ukrainian troops are transported further west and away from the city of Mykolaiv, one of the first places attacked by Russian forces. It's still in the sight of the Russian army, which has pummeled the city with tank, artillery fire, and airstrikes.
Meanwhile, 2 Chinese nationals have been arrested for allegedly smuggling 2 undocumented infants from Ukraine to Romania. Border guards at the crossing in western Ukraine's Chernivtsi Oblast foiled an attempt by these Chinese men to take the babies out of Ukraine. Border officials discovered that the foreigners did not have any identification documents for the infants. The State Border Guard Service found that the Chinese nationals had arrived in Ukraine without the babies. The National Police of Ukraine is now investigating this incident. But NGOs on the ground have already sounded the alarm over women and children trafficking. Reportedly, traffickers are targeting orphans or unaccompanied children at Ukraine's borders. NGOs believe Russia's invasion has taken Ukraine back by 20 years. That's when the country was a major source of human trafficking. While men between the ages of 18 and 60 are mandated to remain behind to fight, women, children and the elderly are seeking refuge in various parts of Europe, but not all are safe on the other side of the border. This is what data from the International Organization for Migration tells us. Since 1991, at least 120,000 Ukrainians have become victims of human trafficking. The country's latest trafficking in persons report was published by the U.S. State Department. It said that despite the government's efforts, convictions remain rare and sentences weak. As per the report, maximum trafficking rings have been discovered in Moldova, Italy, Poland. There are active and well-financed networks between Ukraine and other countries, and now with the Ukraine war, access to potential victims has significantly increased, with most women, girls, children being trafficked for sexual exploitation. Last week, Aerial Recovery, an NGO comprising of US military veterans, expressed concern that 5,000 children on their records were unaccounted for. NGOs and authorities attribute the problem to an absence of vetting procedures. Those who volunteer to help or house refugees are basically left unchecked. The Ukrainian authorities are now tightening procedures for vulnerable children. A system is being put in place with the help of NGOs to process displaced children, this by setting up safe areas in the east of the country. Perhaps better coordination between the refugees, the governments and the NGOs at the border crossings and reception facilities can help tackle the issue of trafficking. For more than 20 days now, we've seen heartbreaking stories of separation, loss and grief as Russia continues to attack Ukraine. Air raid sirens go off multiple times a day in the city of Kharkiv. One famous cafe in this city has turned into a bomb shelter now. Our next report getting you more.
A few weeks ago, this small cafe in Kharkiv was famous for housing two curious little raccoons. Animal lovers flocked to the place with their friends and family. It was just another cafe with two permanent furry residents. But now, it is a bomb shelter. It is shielding people in the city of Kharkiv from raining bombs. Its thick walls and basement are protecting those who are dodging Russian shelling on a daily basis.
There are 7 people at the cafe at the moment. It's not that many. When there were 23 people here, it was more crowded. Now we can relax a bit. 2 people sleep here. This small room also serves for drying clothes. Towels are drying now. We amuse ourselves where we can. We make drawings, read books.
The owner of the cafe says she started preparing for the worst when rumors of Russian attacks began circulating. They bought extra fodder for the raccoons and more bedding for those fleeing their homes.
I knew that there was a cafe here. The first day of war, I was at the metro station Botanic Garden. There were so many people. I met a friend there from the dormitory and he advised to move here as it's much safer and calmer.
This is just one such cafe which has been turned into a bomb shelter. As Russian attacks on residential areas continue, stories such as these have become the norm rather than the exception. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
On that note, it's a wrap on this edition. We are taking a breather. Stay tuned to WION World is One as we continue to get you the latest coming in from Ukraine. Thanks very much for watching.
Давай,